It's not possible to overstate the power of relationships. We just touched on a few things here.
I always wanted to create a place that I want to work, right? I spent a ton of time there.
Hey Restorers, welcome to a fresh episode of the Restoration Masterclass Season 3. This season is sponsored by Answer Force. I am very excited to be joined by Rod Cruce. You've probably seen him on the podcast before. He has been in previous seasons of the Masterclass and also just on my regular Restoration Today podcast. He is with Trifecta Growth Institute. He has lots of training opportunities, those kind of things for restorers. He's also a veteran, and so there's just a lot to talk about here. But Rod, I'm going to toss it over to you first to kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background for people who don't know you.
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you having me on today. So Rod Cruce, I was 21-year veteran in the military. I was in Special Forces. I was a Ranger. Worked all across the world, about 45 different countries, and then retired out of there and then started a business, bought a failing restoration company and turned that around. And now I'm currently supporting the industry in training, leadership, and coaching, and with a company called Trifecta Growth Institute that I founded a few years back, and really enjoy the industry and try to provide as much value as I can to companies out there.
Perfect. Okay, so when you hear the term power skills, what do you think of? How do you kind of define power skills?
Yeah, that's leadership, people skills, soft skills, communication, just being able to win the hearts and minds. It's something I take away from the military. We were always working in another country, and it was all about how you won the hearts and minds of that country you were working with. And, being in the restoration world, it's the same. You are out there every day working with people that they're experiencing some type of tragedy or heartache in their lives. And, you've got to be able to communicate, and you've got to show that leadership, and you've got to be able to have, some people say soft skills. I say people skills, kind of the same way. And here at Trifecta, we say that there's people skills, there's technical skills, there's leadership skills, and we kind of put that into our trainings. And those, when you get all those put together, that is powerful. That becomes your power skills that's going to allow you to operate in this industry.
Yes. Okay. All right. So how do you kind of coach other people in finding or IDing the power skills or soft skills, like the really good, powerful soft skills within a team?
Yeah, the first thing we always say, we talk about putting a professional development program for companies. And that professional development program ranges everything from just what you're talking about, putting in some softer people skills. How do we do an assessment of where your current team is at? And then also where are we lacking in our skills? So a lot of times it's a conversation that starts out with an initial assessment. And one of the things that we find is, this industry really lacks in that development process a lot of times. We have hundreds of videos that we have in our own learning center that we help companies put in play. And that is getting those soft skills, people skills, that talks about leadership, some empathy, some time management, some team dynamics, getting people to talk about that, customer service. And so what we've done is we've created these micro videos that's from 4 to 15 minutes. And that's what we like to start with. If you don't have anything else going on, and it's very affordable. We're talking less than $250 a person per year. And then even if you don't have a chief learning officer, we'll help you do that. So that's what we say get started with, because now then we get everyone involved in that growth mindset. And once we do that, now then we can start to work on our culture, having an open, positive, transparent culture that we're looking for. And that gets everything started. Then we start saying, okay, now then let's start looking at what your people skill, not your people skills, but your mid-level managers are. What are they lacking? Do they have the training they need to be able to do their job? And then how does that correspond into communication? How does that correspond into having, the ability to be able to handle conflict? And then from there, when we go from those technical skills, then we start looking, we identify the leaders within your company. Have they ever had any kind of leadership training? And if they haven't, then we want to be able to identify them and start them on a leadership development program, because now then they're leading others. And so, that's kind of the three-pronged approach that we take with it to be able to put that in play.
So is there ever a time though where you can find, we hear the phrase like hire for character, train for skill. And a lot of times some of the soft skills I think are tied a little bit more to character, more so than trainable skills. Sometimes people have more of the empathy gene than other people, for example, and I would consider that empathy is a good power skill and a good one for our industry. So do you ever find times where it's like that is a really difficult power skill or soft skill to teach? Like some you can and just some you get it or you don't?
Talking about empathy then?
It can be any power skill. Are there any like skills that you find that are critical to restoration where it's like we can try to train for that, but that's something that really either you hire somebody that has it or it's going to be hard to train for it?
Well, I mean, okay, so that's a really good open-ended question.
Yeah.
We take a different approach to hiring. A lot of people that believe, I 100% believe that you hire for potential, and then you develop.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, when our essential leadership class, we go through 4 weeks of who am I? And that is about a person, and that's about a leader who has to understand who they are, first of all. And we find out a lot of times that many people in this industry don't have empathy, or they may have empathy towards a customer, but not towards their own people. And that becomes a little bit of an issue. So what we try to find out, first of all, what we do find out for people is everybody's character is different. And we always hear that's a person of good character, right? And so we always ask, what does that mean? And so when we start getting and pulling this onion, peeling the onion back with people, and they start determining what their own character is, it's very eye-opening sometimes for them. You cannot, when we start to recruit, we have an assessment that we do that we can work with you. Number one, if we define what the job is up front and we can do that, we can hire what we call a modus operandi for that job. And once we can do that, we can take an assessment and test for it. And that's going to tell us what they're going to be able to do from their innate ability on problem solving and how they do work. A lot of people will take a DISC assessment and they'll say, okay, this is a DISC assessment. That's a personality test. Mm-hmm. And, the one thing we find, one thing we know about personalities are this: when the stress starts on it, the personality tests go out the window. It's not relevant whatsoever. Yep. Because a personality test is how that person likes to operate in a nice situation, in a very comfortable situation for them. Yep. So when we start to recruit and hire people, we start looking at we look at 3 different things. We look at the cognitive piece of it. What have they done in the past? Basically, that's what your resume is, right? What school did you go to? How much experience you have? That's how we look at the cognitive. Then when we interview on the personality. And then what we're really trying to answer in that is, are they a good fit for our organization and the way our culture is, right? And you got to realize you're only going to get so much out of that. And when the stress hits or it becomes very times of turmoil, that goes out the window. And then the third thing we want to look at is the cognitive. And that's how people actually do work. How do they solve problems? And we don't ever test for that. We have an assessment we do that with. Now, when you roll all that together and you look at it from those 3 different perspectives, now then we have to ask that empathy question in the interview, but we can't just say, oh, are you empathetic? We got to find a way to pull that out of them, like situations, and realize that when stress takes place, that may go out the window. Mm-hmm. So then we have to reinforce that through training, and we have to do that over and over and over again. And then if we find someone where that empathy is lacking, then we have to look at that as an opportunity to be able to grow. And so that becomes something we work on over time. And then we have to find out how do we put that in play to where they can grow that? And do they want to? Sometimes people don't want to.
sometimes people don't want to, and that is, we could have a whole other podcast on that alone. So we won't even go there. All right. Anything else that you want to add on kind of training, teaching, building on power skills within a restoration company's team?
Yeah, I mean, I hear this all the time, a lot of people say, oh, we onboard people. And then other people say, oh no, we shadow people, or I call it right seat ride. And so now then we're asking people that may not be very good trainers, or they may not be even wanting to do it. And now then we're asking them to try to, check the block for us. Onboarding is onboarding. If you really have a training program, it's not that we checked off empathy for this week or this month, or we checked off, how to communicate on this. It's something that has to be reinforced over and over and over again, because we always have people coming in and coming out. And that's the value of having a training program. And if you can do that, you're going to see, number one, you're going to see your profitability go up, because you're going to see better productivity. You're going to see better people. You're going to see better engagement. You're going to see better communication. That is where you're going to get it. Those are those intangible contributions to your bottom line that is so hard to measure, but they're also very hard to determine where you're losing money at on that too. So that's why we have to have a continual training program in place for that. And it sets up your culture to have that growth mindset, is what we say. And when we can have that growth mindset, then the people around you start to hold other people accountable to doing the same thing that they're looking to be done with. So it's not a check the box thing. It's a continuous piece, a continual program to learn and grow all the time.
I like the growth mindset. Yes, that is absolutely perfect. All right, Rod, thank you so very much. I appreciate your time and your knowledge, and look forward to seeing you at some upcoming shows. And yeah, I don't know. Best of luck. Thank you for all of your insight.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with C&R Magazine and be part of your podcast, and look forward to seeing you here in a couple of shows here in the next month or two.
Thank you.